along to another episode here on the Football Martin channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today, the focus is on Brighton and Hove Albion, and I'm going to be joined on this show today by Ryan from Talk Seagull to give us an insight into Brighton and Hove Albion, the season so far, a deep dive into what's been happening down at Brighton. Ryan is a content creator, a podcaster, a broadcaster, and he has the expert inside knowledge on Brighton as a fan channel, and no better person to bring on today's show other than Ryan. Go check him out. All his links are in the show notes below. We're going to be breaking down the highs and the lows of their season so far. We're going to look ahead to the weekend's clash with us, Southampton. How have Brighton adapted under their new manager, Fabian Hertzler, and the differences between this manager and their previous manager, Roberto De Zerbi. What are the chances of European football for Brighton? We're going to discuss the standout players of the season so far, those tactical shifts, and what can we expect at the weekend as they travel down to St Mary's Stadium. So whether you're a diehard Southampton fan, a Seagulls fan, or just a lover of football, stay tuned as Ryan joins me here on the Football Martin Show. Ryan, thank you for your time today. A great opportunity to take a little look at Brighton, what's happening there. Obviously saw your game on Valentine's Day on Friday night. Talk about the season. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been an interesting season for sure. I think when it was the beginning of the season, we played you earlier. I think there was a lot of more expectation. I think a lot of Brighton fans really wanted to get Europe again this season. I think we're still within that chance of doing so. You see the likes of Bournemouth at the moment doing exactly that and going on above and beyond this season and really, really taking grip of it. And I think that's probably one thing that we wanted to see here with the amount of transfers we made and everything like that. It's, you expect a bit of a transition, I guess, in that respect. But it's been a strange season, a very up and down one. Only 2 weeks ago we lost 7-0 to Nottingham Forest, and then we have that bounce back against Chelsea, who are now kind of like rivals to us in a really strange way. So yeah, I'd say a strange season, a very up and down one. But yeah, I can't complain too much, and we're through to the next round of the FA Cup and still in somewhat contention for a European place.
Yeah, I was looking at your results a minute ago. You beat Man United, lost to Everton. They went and got defeated at Nottingham Forest, who are in great form this season. Then it was back-to-back wins over Chelsea, wasn't it? Because you played them in the FA Cup, beat them in the Cup.
Yeah.
And then Valentine's Day, you play them in the Premier League. And you put in an unbelievable performance against Chelsea. And the goal from Matoma. What a goal.
One of the best I've seen. In fact, I think it is the best I've seen live. It has to be. I can think of so many brilliant worldies and stuff like that and free kicks and stuff. But I think technical ability, I don't think that there's many players that can replicate what Mitoma did there. That first touch was ridiculous. And I've been trying to say it this season. Mitoma's first touch is one of the best in football. And I think now finally people are starting to see it after that goal. Because, yeah, as you say, what a goal that was.
Yeah, what have been the key differences this year from the approach from this manager compared to Roberto De Zerbi?
I think you're seeing less build-up play, less sort of, where Brighton were regarded as probably being one of the best build-up teams in the world. Under De Zerbi, it was unbelievable. Some of the football, I'll come out of there and just say that was faultless. And the same at times under Potter, even though the results weren't there, we play really good football. And you probably could echo that sort of feeling with Russell Martin, where you would have such nice phases of play, but then, the results wouldn't be there. You could make a mistake and sort of give a game away. People like to remember the bad side of De Zerbi's end of season last season. And that's why people now think that this one's, in a weird way, a better one. I still think that a big reason to De Zerbi's end of reign, poor results, form and stuff like that, I do put it down to injuries and the amount of, struggle we had with reaching Europe and maybe not being quite ready for it. This season, as I say, I've not been the most happy with the style of play and the way we've been playing. And it sounds really negative when we look at where we are, and we still should be really happy with it. And I do agree the results are good. But I still want to see us play better football. At times we've really, really relied on individual quality. And as you know really, really well, just like us, when you have great players that are worth a lot of money, when summer comes around, that can come and bite you if you don't get yourself into a higher place in the league, or if you're playing a reasonable amount of football for them to stay. So I think that's probably where I'm at the moment. I want to see some better football. How that's going to happen, I don't know. We've got a new assistant manager in called Daniel Niedzkowski, who was actually the teacher of Hertzler back in Germany from a long time ago. So hopefully that helps steady the ship a little bit and bring a little bit more experience to his backroom.
You sit mid-table in the Premier League, 10th in the division, and
Yeah.
we've got the opportunity now. We're on the final run to May. Do you think you really need to put a run together now? Obviously, Europe's got to be the aim, isn't it? You're not far off that, but you just need to put a really good run together to do that. Do you think you could potentially go on a really good run between now and the end of the season and do that?
I hope so. I think I'm more wishing and hoping, and that's what I don't like. I don't like wishing and hoping. I think that's why my expectations are so high, and why I like to keep the expectations high across the fan base. Whenever I say, a podcast and people say, "Oh, Ryan, this is a transition," and I think, yeah, but remember how good we were last season and the season before, and actually in the last 4 or 5 seasons, there was no hope. We know we're better. We know we're going to go and dominate a game. We know we're going to take it to a team. I probably don't have that, especially going into a side like Southampton, where, as you say, the results that we've had, we've given it away a lot of times. Them 2-0 throwaways against yourselves. Wolves, Crystal Palace wiped us for 3-1. Everton beat us 1-0. We did it again at Leicester as well. We were 2-0 up until the 86th minute or something and drew 2-2. We like to throw away teams at the lesser teams, the bottom of the league sides, which is crazy to say as a Brighton fan. But that's the sort of games now where if you're going to have that expectation, spend that sort of money, compete for Europe, you have to be going to teams and winning games. And that's how it is. And I really don't think we have that maybe arrogance and that, readiness perhaps, but hopefully we can put it together. And I made to eat my words on Saturday.
Brian, the team's defensive structure this season, how's that looked? I looked at obviously the game against Forest stands out. It was very un-Brighton-like for me.
Yeah, a lot of things are very un-Brighton-like for me as well, and I think that's really, you could probably sense it in what I'm saying. There's a lot of strange things this season that are very uncharacteristic. That Forest result was rough. It was a bad day. Was in that away end. Was not great fun. And I think it was kind of obvious from the beginning when you put Hinch, who I love, Jack. He's a great kid, but when you put him on his own against Gibbs White, Alanga, etc., you're thinking, he's a very, very young player. He's also not exactly the most physically demanding player. You've got the likes of Baleba and stuff out, but you don't do that. I think there's a lot of tactical naivety, especially defensively. We've certainly left the defense quite exposed at times because we like to overload an empty midfield, which works really, really well against a side like Ipswich, for example. It worked really well there against Chelsea because, they like to push up a little bit. Them overloads, over the top balls to Mitoma, Minte, etc. Really, really hard to deal with if you've got players like Welbeck and Jorginho who are so physically demanding going forward. Really, really good. But I think when you then empty that midfield out, and okay, it doesn't help that you've had Matt Weaver out, who is meant to be the new sort of anchor, but you've got players like Carlos Baleba, you've got players like Matt O'Reilly, etc., that you spent so much money on. You want to see us use that a little bit more and maybe cover a little bit more in front of your defense. It does often leave us quite exposed because, as I say, that emptiness, if you do come through us, it's going to be quite straightforward to score sometimes. But it's a strange one. Maybe it's
the two sides, wasn't it? When you look at the way that you play and the way that Forest play, I've been really impressed with Forest. And when I originally saw the fixture, I thought I went up there and I was really impressed with Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, the way that Wood plays. They're just a really good side to watch, aren't they? And I always thought, and I watched James Alcott's video not that many weeks before, and he was speaking about how Brighton set up. And I thought, this has potential to be a really interesting game. And I couldn't believe how it unravelled, and it was as many goals conceded as there were.
The thing is, when you look at the goals, though, and probably from your point of view, I think that was quite predictable in terms of you could see that ball nearly every time going over to Alanga, going over to Gibbs White. You knew that Forest defensively is sound, and you knew that if you're going to have to absorb a bit of pressure, or you're going to put pressure on them, their counter-attack is probably one of the best in the league, and that's why they're where they are, and gain credit to them. But we just played into their hands, and it's not the first time we've done that. We did it at Chelsea, I remember really, really vividly, where we got knocked for 4 in the first half. And it was, it's just that naivety perhaps that I want to see ironed out. You get it with a 31-year-old manager, and I'm not getting on him, just to clarify that. It's more the position he's in as a result of circumstances, and I think that's unfortunate for him, to be honest.
Then you built so much good over the last 5-6 years. It's unbelievable what the club have done.
That's it, yeah.
The academy, the recruitment's been very good. As a Southampton fan looking in from the outside, I wish our recruitment was as good as yours.
Yeah.
Bought some really good players through that academy as well. I know Ian Buckman from years ago. He's done a great job with the academy there. It's been impressive, isn't it? The way they've gone about their business up till now.
Yeah, the proper recruitment. One of the best in the world at what we do. Scouting's unbelievable. Finding players is unbelievable. Saying that Mitoma's a 2.5 million signing is absolute insanity now. When you see us rejecting 95 million, and that's what we do best, right? And that's why I guess the ceiling is so high for Brighton. I think that's why probably fans as well have adopted that similar expectation. Perhaps when you look at the side and you look at the amount of individual quality you've got, I think going forward we've got one of the best attacks in the league. I really do believe that. I think defensively, okay, maybe you might need a little bit more cover, and that's for Summer to sort out. In the midfield, you've got so much. Baleba, another one we literally said that he's going to be the next sort of Caicedo / Bissouma-esque player. I think he's even got a higher ceiling than both of those players. He's so good going forward and defensively. The attention to detail when scouting, you're not just looking at a certain player to replace a certain player. You're actually looking at a player to fill a different position entirely. You're looking at their profile. And that's what's so exciting about our recruitment, and probably why you want to see that, leadership from the top, and you want to see that, so when we had De Zerbi, for example, you knew that you had a real manager to get the best out of those players. And that's the difference between where you could be and where you are. And I think that's what Brighton will definitely be looking at in the summer.
Yeah, it's a big summer ahead. Look ahead to this weekend's game. I want to talk about the standout players at Brighton. You play a Southampton side rock bottom, could go down as one of the worst sides in Premier League history. What are the players that are really going to hurt Southampton this weekend? Obviously, we know about Mitoma. We know how good he is. Who's broken through this year that we may not know about? If you've not watched a lot of Brighton and Hove Albion.
Good one. I'd look at Minte. Even in the last few weeks, he's really come on. Jorginho is superb. Don't ever overlook Danny Welbeck, because he is the fine wine that is a handful. Absolutely. There's a lot of, as I say, going forward, we've got a lot of players to look out for. I want to see more from Matt O'Reilly. Actually, he's one that I don't feel like he's really had the best of starts here, and that's probably a lot down to that injury that he got at Crawley.
Heavily linked.
Well, yeah, he was actually. Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
He got that injury.
Fans would be interested to know how it's unravelled actually.
Yeah, well, he made his debut against Crawley Town and got literally snapped, and his ankle was gone for about 3 months. He was only 6 minutes into his debut, so to have that was really real, like, big kick for him. 25 million signing, probably not really had too much game time, really. He obviously had that unbelievable moment when he first came into the side against Manchester City, and he scored that winner. And that was, an unbelievable moment for everybody. I thought, okay, O'Reilly has arrived. But really, since then, he probably hasn't kicked on so much. You can definitely sense maybe a little bit of not fear, but where he's had that injury, where he's maybe not quite settled into the team. I'd say Hertz's tactics are so, you're almost abandoning midfield at times. That if you're then going to look at midfielders like Matt O'Reilly, who's a bit of a box-to-box, Matt Weaver even, who's a bit of a deep-line playmaker, you've got someone like Baleba, who's so good going forward and as an anchor. I think that's where you're maybe not seeing the best out of Matt O'Reilly that maybe you could do. It'll be interesting to see how he does between now and the end of the season. He has been sometimes starting games that are like sort of out the blue. So you might even see that against Southampton. But
yeah, I was going to say, do you think he could come in at the weekend at St Mary's potentially?
Possibly. I think I haven't seen obviously our press conference yet, because I'll be tomorrow. So we'll see what injury front we got. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to change too much. He came on against Chelsea last week, but the way he played was very promising. And hopefully, if we do that again, the only difference is for us is obviously against the side at the lower end. Hopefully, we don't then go and approach that in such a passive way where we just let you do what you want to do and almost think, oh, it's only Southampton, because that's what I think we've been guilty of this season. Yeah. We need to go there and prove we're a better team.
Yeah, it would be an interesting game to see how it pans out. Southampton are a very different side to that went to the Amex early on in the season. It was pretty much at the end of Russell Martin's reign as the
Yeah,
manager. Actually, we didn't play too bad in the second half. We didn't have a very
no, you
good. The
didn't.
first 45 was really poor. Second half was a bit better. Loads of controversy around the disallowed Southampton goal late on in that game. But it's a different Saints side now. Flynn Down scored that night. He's nowhere near the match day squad at the moment. He's fallen out with the
Oh, really?
manager. Yeah, we play a very different. We try and play. Well, I'm not sure how we try and play. Actually, he wants to play a bit more of a press. He wants to play with energy. He wants to play with intensity. We didn't see any of that against
Yeah,
Bournemouth at the
sounds
weekend.
familiar.
For the first 20 minutes, we were well off it. We didn't go after them. We were lackluster. We didn't make our passes count. We didn't put any pressure on the ball, and they were 2-0 up inside the first 25 minutes. Very fast start. Do Brighton start games fast, Ryan?
No, we don't. And yeah, probably one thing again where you'd look at that and say against the side where that's your fear. You'd like to hope that's something that's been identified.
Yeah.
I mean, we promised that high tempo, high press. That's really what hurts the soul here. Probably again, not really seen too much of it. I don't remember a 90-minute game where we've really looked into control, throughout and not looked too worried. I think that even the Chelsea game, we started the first 25 minutes where we're on the back foot, and Chelsea had a lot of the ball, especially around our box.
Yeah.
And actually that goal came against the run of play. And then after that, for some reason, whatever Chelsea, I don't know what they were doing, they looked terrible. And we just took them apart from that point. Hopefully that's something we can do to you. But I think it will be difficult because, where I'd look at Southampton before, I'd say, oh, yeah, well, you'd like to play a little bit more expansive. And then we could go there and maybe try and pick you apart, play through your lines a little bit. And that's probably what I'd have said before. I think now it's a bit of a difficult one because it's like, if you're going to play a similar sort of style to us, maybe we just overload you and it'll be too much for you to handle, hopefully. Yeah. I think, as I said, going forward, we have got so many attacking options. If those over-the-top passes work like they did so effectively in recent times against United and Chelsea, then, yeah, you'd like to hope we can do
Southampton play a little bit of a high line sometimes. One thing I noticed against Bournemouth at the weekend, they played... Jan Bednarek ended up as a last man way too much. And I do fear playing Brighton because I feel, we like you say, with the power and the pace on the attack, if we do get up the field, you will hit us on the break if we're not careful. And I think that's where the game will be won, I would think.
Well, that's music to my ears, to be honest, because that is Minte and Mitoma right there.
Yeah.
And that's probably one thing we've not had is those sort of wingers that you could just say, yeah.
Hopefully our manager's done his research this time around because he certainly didn't do it on Bournemouth. He literally played into Bournemouth's hands at the weekend. He was so naive at the weekend. It was he set up with a midfield two of Aribo and Smallbone against Adams and Christie, and they totally bossed the game. Adams and Christie were so good in midfield. We would need Leslie Igochukwu to play in midfield to give us any chance and any backbone in midfield. Score prediction time. Your thoughts on this one? Do you feel you'll get the win you need?
I hope so, yeah. I'm going. So it'd be a nice trip to Southampton. I haven't been there since, obviously, you guys went down, so it'd be good to be back. Let's say... I always like Southampton away. It is quite fun. I remember
You definitely won't see Adam Lallana play. That's for sure. He won't play.
Yeah, that's not surprising. As much as I do love Adam Lallana, though, I think we missed him this season, his leadership. That's one thing we have missed.
We've not utilised his leadership, by the way, at all. For any Saints fan tuning in as well, they would agree with me. Yeah, the manager doesn't fancy him. He's not even making the bench now. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we say now we miss him because him, Gross, they were so vital for our that experience in the squad where we've got such a young team. Losing experienced players is always going to be a big hit. We didn't really replace them either, so I think now you're relying on the likes of like JP Van Hecker, for example, who's 23, as being your next leader. He's the only one to really come over at that Forest defeat, which is quite alarming. I think
Really?
I don't think Hurst was there. The players came over eventually. Mitoma was one of the first to orchestrate it to come over, but Van Hecker was the first one to come straight over and do this. I thought, you didn't see Hertzler there, and that's just a bit of a strange one, really. But, anyway, let's say, to answer your question, 3-0 Brighton.
3-0 Brighton, yeah. I think I said a few days ago, I think it'd be very similar to what we saw against Bournemouth. Very, very similar.
I just think, I think going forward, we got too much for most teams. And if we do utilise that, if you're telling me you got a high line, I'd like to think another Verbruggen to Mitoma ball would be a brilliant sight to see. And while he's on red hot form, I fancy him and Minte against most teams. I really, really hope, by the way, if you're putting this out tomorrow, say on the time of recording this is the Wednesday, then this could be very different based on the injury news that we get through. But hopefully, both of them two are fit and we can take you apart. As much as that is hard to say to someone on the other end of the line.
Yeah, it's been brilliant speaking to you. Best team you've seen this season? Anyone that you've seen that's really showed that they're a really good side to watch?
Best team I've seen. As I think it goes without saying that Forest are obviously brilliant to watch. So good going forward. I think all round they're defensively sound. I liked. Let's think. Gosh, because obviously you've had the likes of City.
They get top four. I think they get top four. I've got a sneaky feeling they'll do it.
Yeah, Forest. They might do. I think they will actually. I think when you look at the traditional sort of big sides in the league, they haven't really impressed me too much. No, City, obviously, we beat them. Yeah, Spurs, we beat them. United, we beat them. Chelsea, we've beaten them. So actually, the big sides we've beaten, it's the teams that are in that middle block that we've not done so well against. Even Villa didn't really impress me that much this season. Newcastle, even we beat. So, yeah, actually, I'd probably say of all of them sides, probably Forest. Liverpool, we didn't do too badly against. So the physically teams I've actually watched, because I don't want to just say, oh yeah, well, saw them on Sky Sports, the ones I've actually gone and seen.
That's what I do. I always try to talk about players that I've seen, and I did a video today, and I just focus on players I've seen that I've really enjoyed watching, teams I've seen in the flesh, because you see so much more when you see a team in the flesh, like the fans, the atmosphere. Absolutely. I thought the atmosphere when I went to Forest was good. We get a lot of Forest fans actually tuning into the channel, so they're
no, I do rate Elanga and Gibbs White. They are electric. And as Chris Wood loves scoring against us. Yeah, he's top. Yeah. I remember when Chris Wood was on loan here in League One, and he then left and he just basically said he didn't like it down there, which is really, really quite, one of them. And I think he started celebrating against us when he went to Leeds. And yeah, he's just one of them that will always score. But yeah, we'll see. Big weekend for us. I really, really think we have to win this game for us to really look serious for Europe.
Yeah, no, definitely. Ryan, before you go, shout out your channels. Where can we find you? I'll put all the links in the show notes below as well.
Thank you. You probably don't want to follow a Brighton channel, and if you are a Southampton fan that wants to follow a Brighton channel, then I'm not actually going to tell you not to, because that should be really weird. So don't do that. Follow TSR Football on Instagram and follow Ryan Adsit on Twitter. Don't follow Talk CEOs, because that'll just make you strange. That would be really weird. So don't do
he makes brilliant content. Great to listen to. I always listen to stuff. So what? There's certain people from each club that I watch and I check in with all the time. And you, for Brighton, I always check in with Ryan. So make sure you check in with Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant content. Thank you for joining us on the show today. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you for having me.